This is the place for inspiring conversations, learning from the experts and exploring all things health and wellbeing, specifically for women and busy mums. Welcome to Tassie Chats.
Yeah, and body confidence as well is a lot that I see, and seeing people being able to look in the mirror and without criticizing themselves is massive. To be able to wear clothes that they want to wear, that they feel great in, is amazing. Seeing them getting in a swimming costume and playing with their children on the beach, which they wouldn't have done, they wouldn't have even contemplated it. Those are the really things that you just think, wow, you don't have to be doing anything amazing like going to university and doing all these courses, which is great. But to be able to see her face saying that she wore a swimming costume and ran into the sea with her children, it was like, oh, that is amazing.
Hi Helen, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about kind of what you do and the work you do and maybe how you got into it as well, maybe your journey?
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah, cool. Hi, I'm Helen Kalynack. I am the owner of Sonara Sister Hypnotherapy. I'm a solution-focused hypnotherapist. So there are different types of hypnotherapy, but the particular one that I do is what we call solution-focused, and it's based from solution-focused brief therapy, which is kind of a therapy on its own. And it's been combined with hypnosis. So that type of hypnosis is kind of focusing on where you are now and where you want to be. So we're kind of not dismissing the problem, but we're trying not to focus on the problem so much and focus on the solution. And I've been going for probably, I think it will be 3 years in October this year. I would have started my business. And I was a nurse before.
Okay,
and
nice.
Yeah, so I was nursing and I'd had my twins. And I went back to nursing and it just wasn't the same after going off maternity leave. And it was really tricky with the twins to try and organise like childcare. And nobody wanted to look after two. It was like, no way. And like childcare was really expensive and things just got really on top of me. And so I kind of had a little wobble, kind of like a little breakdown of just like, I don't know what to do. I can't seem to cope. And I was getting more and more stressed with work and really anxious about going into work on the days that I was going in. So I kind of had a little break and I had a few months off, and it was kind of like, I still want to really help people. I'm still like loving that part of the nursing, but everything that went with it was just really, really stressful. And it was like, what can I do? Didn't know what to do anyway. So I went and had solution-focused hypnotherapy to help me kind of get out of this funk that I was in, this kind of like, I don't know what to do with my life. I'm just like, I know where I kind of want to get to, but I don't know how to get there and I can't think straight and I'm just so stressed all the time and I was getting so tearful. So I went and had solution-focused hypnotherapy and it totally was like, it just changed my life. So I felt so amazing. I felt so much more in control of my thoughts. I felt like I kind of knew what path I wanted to do. And I just started to feel like me again. And I know like as mums, we lose ourselves, don't we, when we have children?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just felt that nursing had really dragged me to a place that I didn't want to be in myself, and trying to manage the twins, and I was still breastfeeding them both. So like my husband was having to like meet me in a car park so that I could feed them in the back of the car, and then I'd go back to work, and it was just like, so that's kind of how I got into solution-focused hypnotherapy, because I loved it so much and it really changed my life. And I had a great relationship with the hypnotherapist that I had, and she was kind of like, I think you'd be amazing at this. Like, you've just got such a caring way about you and you can see the benefits. And I was like, I'd really love to learn how to do it. So I kind of like put it off and doing that whole of, well, shouldn't I just stick with nursing because it's what I know.
Yeah.
And then one day a friend was just like, just go for it. Just like, what, and that was a solution focus. I was kind of saying to myself, well, what is the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah.
I do a course and I don't do anything with it. Okay, but I would have got experience from it. So I signed up and I trained in Bristol, and I signed up, and it was a course for 10 months, and I met some incredible people who I'm really good friends with now. And yeah, and I just went for it. I literally kind of did the both. I did a bit of nursing, bit of hypnotherapy, juggling the kids, and then gradually it tailed off, and I just stopped nursing, and I just slotted straight into this, which is amazing. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations. It's so cool. I love that. Also, so neat that your solution therapy provided your solution like
Totally,
in a career.
yeah.
It's not funny.
Yeah, totally
that's
found
so
it.
cool. That's awesome. So, and how has that progressed and kind of changed over the years? Have you seen some kind of different projects and different clients? Is it changed for you? Is your kind of perception of the tool changed at all, or
Yeah,
developed?
I mean, at the start I was seeing like everyone and anyone.
Yeah.
I was just like helping everyone. But my background really, I was in a health visiting team before I became a practice nurse and a district nurse. So I've always had helping women and helping mums right from when I first started my career in the NHS. It was always going out. So health visiting teams, helping mums with postnatal depression. I ran my own postnatal depression group for mums. And back then it was, this is, oh God, we're talking like 16 years ago. It was incredible, the funds and resources that we had back then, that we could help women and stuff. So I've always had that in the background of just love women's health, helping women, helping mums. And then I went into district nursing, and then I went into practice nursing, and I loved doing like the smears, the pill checks, like all of the kind of women stuff, because of the great conversations that we'd be having. I probably had the most funniest conversations doing people's smears. My friend said, "Oh, you should write a book one day," because it's just like the amount of smears that I've done, and just the the funny conversations that I've had with women and stuff. So I always loved that part of my job, helping women that weren't feeling themselves. And, yes, they might have come in for a pill check, but we ended up talking about all sorts. And I found that I was almost helping women with other stuff, not just that particular thing that we were coming in for. And and I just thought, actually, I really liked the niche of women's wellbeing. Like I loved it. So why don't I try and bring that into my hypnosis practice? So that's kind of how it started. So I was helping anyone for everything, different phobias for this, and getting people over depression and things, which was all really great. And I was super grateful for all the clients that I had. But once I kind of changed my thought process of actually who I'd like to work with, I then started, whether it's manifestation or not, I don't know, but I then started to have these clients that were just were perfect for me. And since then I've just helped so many women now, whether it's women who've got postnatal depression, whether it's women who've just lost themselves after having children, whether it's women who have struggled with fertility. So I was helping all sorts of things. So I guess just my ideal client and how I got into it was just people like me. People, I think therapists always find that niche of a version of you at some point in your life. And I think that's why, my biggest why was, I just don't want women to feel like I felt, this absolute desperate, lost feeling that I really didn't know who I was, but I knew I wanted to do something and I wanted to change things in my life. I felt so stuck and I'd lost everything about myself. And it's horrible. And we get these. I mean, I had one years and years ago, a breakdown, it was similar, like I don't know what to do with my life. I found myself as a single mum with 2 children, and I was so lost, and I had hypnosis for that. So hypnosis has always kind of been a part of my life. Every time I've kind of gone, oh, I'm really lost and stuck, I know exactly what I need to do. But I think how I got into working with women was just because of the background that I've worked in before, and that I'd loved that part of my nursing job, and I loved that part of being in a health visiting team, was helping women feel better about themselves, really.
Yeah. Fundamentally, that's it, isn't it? It sounds so perfect, and it sounds like it's kind of an accumulation of all sorts of things, kind of career and personal life, and kind of what you're naturally drawn to doing, which is super, super awesome. It's unfortunate, isn't it? It's an unfortunate reality that this feeling of kind of overwhelm and losing yourself as women and as mothers is kind of as prolific as it is. I think it's rare actually that you find a mum or a new mum or a woman that's like, yeah, I feel great, I just sound, you know, it's so common, unfortunately. So so yes, we all have to rally together and kind of do these things like we to support each other, and if you
Absolutely.
into your career as well, like how
Yeah, and that's why I've been doing some face-to-face groups as well with mums down here in Cornwall over the winter, particularly because, you know, we came out of lockdown, but there still wasn't anything on for anyone to get together that was just about you as a person, as a mum, without doing it with the children. So I've been doing like a monthly kind of group. We do, you know, anyone can come to it, but it's kind of basically for in those winter months where you don't feel you're connecting with anyone. And it's been amazing. Like mums from all walks of life have come, and to see them chatting and getting on and speaking to other mums have gone, oh yeah, I really felt like that, and oh, I found this really helpful. And watching people helping each other was really massive for me, because I feel that having a sisterhood or a tribe like we would have done all those years ago is so important when we are feeling lost and we're feeling we don't know ourselves, because we just do that daily grind, don't we, of babies and toddlers, and we do all of that. But to actually come to a group where we journal a little bit about you, and how actually women found it really hard to write about themselves, because it was like, I don't know anything about myself, I don't really know what I like anymore, but the more we did it, the more, you know, people were writing in and finding it inspiring that they could actually start visualizing things that they want to do. And then we do like a really nice deep relaxation. And yeah, I think it's really important, and especially now, I mean, gosh, after the last 2 years, you know, the amount of women that I've spoken to who've gone through the maternity NHS system and I've just been treated appallingly, there's been no support whatsoever, has been horrific. And at the other scale, I see women also who are like perimenopause, who are kind of like at that later part, even though they've got children. You know, we go into perimenopause like earlier than we would imagine, but also being failed by the system, of not being able to see anybody and not getting any help with how they're feeling. So I'm seeing two scale ends of women feeling lost, you know, not long after having children, and not knowing themselves and not having any support, no health visitor visits, no midwife visits, you know, all of this sort of stuff, and just being left to get on with it. And then women who are like in, you know, early 40s in the perimenopause, may have kids that are like a little bit older, also feeling really lost because they've lost friends, or they haven't seen people over the pandemic. GPs don't want to know their symptoms, that there's nowhere to go, there's no one specialized in sort of perimenopause and menopause, and it's just like, oh, we'll just put you on antidepressants, and then they feel really lost. And yet to see the two scales of that is just, it's crazy over the last 2 years. And we know we've had the pandemic, people are going off with COVID, but it's been so crucial for women with children to have support or something to go to. And we just need to get it going again, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're so right. That kind of fundamental kind of NHS or kind of governmental societal support has not been there. But I've seen so many, you know, people like yourself and other people that have kind of rallied together and kind of, you know, come up with other solutions. And as well as that kind of, you know, beginning of motherhood and kind of later motherhood, there's a whole load of people in the middle as well, myself. Aside from the kind of parental NHS thing, that there's been a massive shake up in kind of work and stuff as well, isn't it? And kids have been off school and people are like working from home and thinking, actually, what am I doing? And actually, where is this kind of life? But, you know, we've kind of just had a big shake up, haven't we? A big
absolutely. Yeah. And I think women have either found that they've gone into a different career completely because of what's happened. And you know, sometimes there has been good things that have come out of the pandemic where people have suddenly realized, actually, do I really want to be in this job that I've been doing? Because actually now I realize that I can do something else. And you might find that mums have got a really creative side to them, and they started this kind of like sideline little hustle that have actually now built into businesses, and it works around their children a little bit better. So there has been things that have come out of it, but there's also been people in the middle where their jobs have completely changed. And as we know what happens when we have change, our brain's a bit like, oh, what's going on? And we go into that that fight, flight, freeze kind of response, that high alert state, where people who felt relatively calm and in control with their work and what they were doing and juggling childcare suddenly just was all shaken up. And you're on this high alert kind of an anxiety that they haven't had for a really long time just completely rears its ugly head again. And people are finding they're getting anxious about all sorts of things that they wouldn't have done before, because we've got this undercurrent of this threat of the pandemic and the virus, and things are just changing. And change, quite often our brains don't like change, and it can send people into a real spin.
Yeah, it's been like quite a prolonged state of kind of overwhelm, hasn't it, and stress for people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we're not used to that. We're not used to being in such a prolonged time, such heightened awareness of anxiety and threat and danger and all of that. Our bodies are not meant to go through such a long period of time to be in stress and anxiety. And I think that's why it's so important now that we're coming out for people to really take care of themselves, whether it is going for a walk with a friend, whether it is going to see a therapist, whether it is going having a massage or whatever, but to try and release some of this tension and stress that we're holding, because it will come to a point, like you said, burnout, or people get so overwhelmed that you end up having sort of a meltdown or breakdown or something, because we physically cannot carry that for such a long time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Linking it back then, Helen, to hypnotherapy, because I'm pretty fascinated about this. I don't know much about it. So can you explain a little bit more about what that is exactly, what that looks like when you're practicing it or when you're working with clients, and how directly that helps some of this overwhelm and stress that we're talking about?
Yeah. So hypnotherapy, there's so many misconceptions about hypnotherapy, isn't there? Like what we see on the TV, stage hypnotists getting people to do silly random things.
Yeah.
And hypnotherapy isn't like that at all. It's such a powerful tool, but really, really gentle. And it's not, we can't hypnotize somebody to do things they don't want to do. It's just doesn't happen. But the kind of work that I do, so the first part of a session is that solution focused talking. So especially if somebody is in a really negative frame of mind, before we go into hypnosis, we want them to be out of that primitive part of the brain where we're in that fight, flight or freeze. We want them to be in this really nice part, which is a prefrontal cortex, where things are positive, where we think rationally, logically. It's our intellectual part of our brain, a nice creative brain where it's not driven by emotion. So the solution focused therapy is the talking part is a really great way of actually getting people to see how much resilience they've got, how much strength they've had, all of those, even though in hard times, how they've got through it. So we're almost getting to recognize how incredible they are for getting where they are. So we're getting them to really start thinking nice things about themselves. So we don't want to be in that primitive brain. So solution focused is we're not trying to focus on the problem so much, but we are using things from problems and difficult times to help them carry it so that they can then kind of move forward again. So the talking therapy is really getting people to look at their best hopes. What is it that you'd like to feel like instead of what you feel like now? We're also used to saying what we feel like, but we're kind of looking at the opposite and actually being like, well, what is it you'd like to feel like?
Yeah.
So it might be, actually, I'd like to feel a bit more that I'm coping and managing with daily tasks. I'd like to think that I could think more clearly, that I wouldn't feel so lost. I'd like to actually feel a bit freer. I'd like to feel relaxed in my body. So we're changing the language already by the talking therapy and getting them to really, really look into that and visualize. So it's really important in hypnosis as well to have vision, to really look at what that kind of a bit more confident you might look like, or that relaxed, what would you look like? How would you stand? How would you talk? What would that feel like? And we really get people to imagine that. And you can see their body language changing straight away when they think of that best version of themselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes they might have had a best version in the past. So I'll always say, has there been a time where you felt really confident or you felt really relaxed? And then and they describe it and they're talking about it. So they're in that lovely part of the brain. And then we do a little bit more delving in. We might do a bit of scaling, a miracle question. If the miracle happened overnight and you moved up that scale, maybe from a 3 to a 4, what would be different about you? How would you know? So people might say, oh yeah, well, I might not be as snappy, or I might find that I'm a bit more productive, or that I'm smiling a bit more, or I might actually listen to music in the car rather than being so tense. Whatever it is for somebody, it's those little things that they begin to notice. And once we've got them thinking about this and going, oh yeah, I can really see myself in as a 4, I can see myself being a bit more confident in doing that, then they start to feel really good.
Yeah.
They then get them on the couch or on their bed or wherever they are on Zoom and do the hypnosis. And then hypnosis works similar to, well, we go into trance multiple times a day. So if you think about it, you know, when we're on autopilot in the car, when we're sat looking and listening to the sea, we're in some sort of trance. Maybe when we're in the shower, you might find where people say, oh, that's where I get all my best thoughts, where I get all my great ideas, is on a run, in the shower, driving in the car, listening to music or whatever. And it's a place that we go into in our minds. And hypnosis is like that. It's a trance where you are in a really relaxed state, and your subconscious mind then is open to positive suggestions and positive change. So to get people to relax, so we'll always do what we call like a body scan. So we're going from our head all the way down right to our toes, because we can hold tension in our jaw, in our neck, in our shoulders. So like our shoulders are up in our ears, aren't they, at this time? And I'm finding that clients say that they're holding it in their jaw, like their teeth and their jaw aching because they're so tense. So we use this kind of technique of like body scanning every bit of our body, getting somebody really, really relaxed. And then through hypnosis, I'll be taking them and guiding them through a really nice place, whether it's a beautiful beach or a lovely garden or a beautiful woodland, you know, or tropical island, because as we know, when we think about nature and when we're in nature, we actually start changing brain waves in our brain. So nature's always a really good place to get people in a really nice, relaxed state, so that their mind is perhaps thinking about the sun on their face and the sound of the birds. So we're really, really relaxed. And we're reducing all that adrenaline and cortisol, that stress hormone that's going around our body. And when they're really relaxed in this beautiful place, I then use positive suggestions and positive affirmations using words that they have told me in our therapy session beforehand, the talking part.
Okay, so it's all really related to that person, that's really going to sink in and mean something to them, right?
It's so important to use words that my client has used, or you know, that they have used, because it's more likely to go into the subconscious and actually make a differse. So I'm scripting away.
So much more effective to work with someone like yourself one-to-one, as opposed to kind of, because you get a lot of kind of self hypnosis, affirmation kind of recording stuff, but I guess it's just a little bit more powerful, is it then, if you're working with someone and it's a little bit more kind of tailored?
So things like, you know, we've got lots of different apps, haven't we, of meditations and stuff, and you can listen to self-hypnosis, and they are great. They will help you relax, they help you fall asleep. But if you're really wanting to make a bespoke particular change in your life, whether that's like overcoming a fear, whether that's getting rid of panic attacks and anxiety that are completely personal to you, then seeing somebody one-to-one and working on that really specific thing is going to be more effective. And it's consistency. And I think sometimes when we invest in something like that, in our well-being or whatever, we're more committed, we're more there, we're more ready. Whereas, you know, you find lots of people, we read the books, we listen to the app, you know, we've done the podcast, and it's all great and it's made us feel good. But to really make solid change is repetition, consistency, and taking small actions. And we're more likely to take more actions when we've got somebody who's working with us in a particular way, whether that's a coach or a therapist, whatever. We're more likely to make sustainable changes when we've got someone going there with us, you know, each week in, week out, kind of like in your corner.
Completely.
You're more likely,
isn't it? I suppose I completely agree with you. So much that I do and so much that I bang on about is this kind of little and often approach. It's so effective. I mean, often as busy people, as busy mums, it's kind of the only option we've got anyway, is to do like a little snippet, you know, little micro moments of well-being. So that's generally the most kind of effective way to make big changes over time. But yes, the accountability factor is huge, isn't it? If either that's, investment of your time or your money, and having someone there, you know, having an appointment, and it's going to be on track.
Yeah, absolutely. So so the hypnosis, then using the language that the client would use, whether it's I want to feel more confident, or I want to be able to feel more relaxed in this situation, I want to feel calmer, you know, all the words that they use, or will then use that in the later part of the hypnosis. So we're going to a really nice place, beach, garden, somewhere lovely, and then we are using that. And also I use the thing what we call a reframe. So if it's a particular thing, so I might have somebody that comes to me because they're really nervous or fearful about an event, or that they've got to go and speak on a podcast, or they've got to go and do something that's really out of their comfort zone, but they know that they really want to do it, but you know, that primitive brain is absolutely like, no, you're not doing it, you're not very good. And we get this inner voice, this, you know, this negative inner voice, and the fear sets in, and we start to really, and you know, that primitive brain starts to really find evidence that you can't do these things, or you shouldn't get in that car to drive, or get in that aeroplane to fly up to go and see your family. You know, you want to do it, but when somebody's got that fear, we also use what we call like a reframe, and we're reframing that situation for the person in the most positive way. So we get them to really visualize what it would be like stepping into that confident version of them, that best version, how they're going to stand, how they're going to talk, what they're going to wear. We want the details of where it's going to be, because your mind is like a rehearsal room. So if you're going to rehearse it and imagine it going as well as you want, whether that's a job interview, and again, job interviews have changed. I've seen so many women now in the last 6 months changing their jobs, and all the interviews are on Zoom now. You don't see a person, and actually I find it really daunting. So, you know, we've kind of reframed how they do it. A nice relaxing candle next to them when they're on Zoom, you know, wearing an outfit that they feel great in. And, you know, I'm getting them to literally visualize putting on these items of clothing to the finest detail, so that when it comes to doing that event, the anxiety and the fear is reduced, because the brain has already seen you do it. We've done it in hypnosis. So they're lying down comfortably relaxed, and I'm talking them through this reframe of them in these clothes, and they're feeling really good, and how they talk, and they know their stuff. And then, you know, it works wonders. And then they come back and be like, I got the job and I was absolutely fine. And you're getting that validation that you can do things. But it's really, really small micro steps to getting to the big things. You know, for somebody that's, you know, fearful of driving in a car or something, it's just getting in the car and feeling the steering wheel first. Don't have to go anywhere. Sit in the car, you know. So it's all these different things that you can do that are just like little steps that kind of tick off in the brain. Yeah, I can do that. What's the next thing? I can do that. And we get those little hits of dopamine where we feel like really good about ourselves, and we feel proud of ourselves. And then the more we do that, the more the brain wants to do it. And it's that repetition. And it's like anything, isn't it? If you want to get back into going for a swim, or you want to get back out running again, but you haven't been for months, that first one's so hard, isn't it? You just can't get your mindset into it. But the more you do those things, the more it becomes a habit. And I'm massively all about these small little steps, because, you know, I say to clients, you see it as a big ladder. Okay, at the top of the ladder is where you want to get to, where you feel like you're at your best. But right now you're at the bottom of the ladder. We can't jump to that top. We've got to make these really, really small steps. And I think when we're feeling like in a low mood, or we're not motivated, we think we've got like this stress bucket in our minds. And, you know, kids go in there, car breaks down, we might have a bit of financial worry, all of that goes into the stress bucket, and it fills up through the day. And when we go to bed at night, naturally our brain processes stuff, and it kind of empties that stress bucket a little bit, and then more goes in. But if we're already feeling low, and we're already feeling like we're taking on so much, and we're just saying yes to everything, we've got no boundaries, and we're just putting more and more into that stress bucket, it then overspills, and we get physical symptoms. You might start getting palpitations, you might start to feel a bit panicky, you might feel that your hands are sweaty, that you're nervous, that you just got this weird feeling of being on high alert, because your body's trying to say to you, something's got to give, like, we've got to slow down here a little bit, we've got to calm down. And when we've got that stress bucket in our mind, we can't think straight. There's just too much in there. And hypnosis kind of replicates that a little bit, where we empty that stress bucket so that you can cope and manage and, you know, do all the amazing things that you wanted to do, but your own voice kind of in your own mind put you off doing.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds so fascinating. I've got so many like questions and things pinging up as you're saying this, but it going back to this point about kind of repetition and habits. It's so true that builds up, doesn't it? Whether that's a positive thing or a negative thing. So that's why we've got to be mindful about which one we're choosing. And I think so often people think about habits as physical things like drinking water or exercising.
Yeah.
It is, but the way you think is the habit too, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're in a habit of thinking negatively or in a stressful way, that's going to compound just as much as anything else. So coming to you, or, you know, being mindful of it or shaking that up in whatever way to reframe and then start building up this habit of positive thinking, it does build up, right? Like anything, like working any kind of muscle.
Absolutely. And it is your brain, you know, there's plasticity there, you know, we can shape and change neural pathways. And as we, you know, with gratitude as well, it's another thing that I get clients to do, because the repetition of gratitude, of finding one thing in your day or 3 things in your day, the repetition of it actually changes neural pathways in our brain. It starts to make us think really differently about our life and brings us really mindfully back to what we have and what we're grateful for. Because, you know, because we can all find, and it's so easy, it's the easy route in a day to just go, oh, well, it's just been rubbish, like nothing's gone right. But when you actually look at it and really break it down, and I like to say to clients, so nothing has gone right, nothing at all. Everything's just, you know, everything's been bad. Then you kind of get, oh, well, no, I did do this. And then it's like, wow, that's incredible you did that.
Right? It's you're in a habit of thinking that way.
So in a habit, and we all do it, of thinking that, well, actually that day's just gone to pot. You know, I'm going to write the day off. We say things like that, I'm going to write the day off, you know. But actually, when you really look and you start looking at gratitude and you start looking at things that have gone well, we're changing our perspective. And it's, you know, I do believe that sometimes there can be a bit of toxic positivity. Oh, just think positively. It's really, really difficult to think just positively when someone says to do that. But it's really trying to not say, don't, you know, oh, just think positively. Another way of thinking is, can you find anything in your day that you were happy with, or that you felt was quite nice? And they were like, oh yeah, well actually I did see a friend and that was really nice. And then we explore, like, why was that really nice? And then it's like, oh, and then you start to see them going, oh yeah, and then this happened, and then I did this, and I managed to get that bit of washing done. And we start finding, but what the easy route is for our brains is to find the negatives and what's gone wrong. So hypnosis is so good at kind of changing the way you talk to yourself. And I'm a huge advocate for self-compassion, because if we don't have self-compassion, when things go wrong, we write things off and we don't do them again. But we've got to learn from when things go wrong. So being compassionate and going, okay, do you know what? Actually, that didn't go right today, but actually I managed to do this one thing and I'm really pleased with myself. Or I couldn't do that today because, you know, my child was ill. So you're kind of like, it's almost just cutting yourself some slack. It's kind of almost like being like, just being a bit nicer to yourself, rather than, oh, that's typical me for that to go wrong. Oh, things always go wrong for me, or I never get that right. You know, the way we talk to ourselves really has an impact on how we feel. But again, it takes a while, you know, drip by drip by drip of trying to change how we talk. It's not a one thing quick fix, because like you said, it is a habit that we've built up. And whether it's come from, whether we have limiting beliefs from our childhood, might be someone that said something in the playground, it might be a parent not intentionally being unkind, but it might have been something that made us not feel good enough, or whatever it's come from. And then it grows and things get added to it, and this limiting belief comes where we just don't feel we're good enough, or that things always go wrong for me, or like I never get any luck. All of that kind of talk, hypnosis is really good at kind of looking at finding other ways and other words that we can use about ourselves. And when over time, again, repetition, we start to really lift ourselves and we come out of that, and we get nice serotonin and all the nice happy hormones, rather than the adrenaline and the cortisol and the stress. You know, and it's like just adding little moments of joy into your life totally changes the color of your life. And it can just be that one small thing that you do repetition until it becomes a habit, and then you can add something else in there, and then you start to feel better.
Yeah, I love that, Helen. That's such a really really powerful, but also very achievable, like very accessible way to think about things.
It's got to be achievable, and that's why I say to my clients, you know, what step can you take to start feeling, I don't know, whether they say, oh, I'm feeling a 4 on this confidence scale, you know, whether they say, okay, let's try and imagine a 5, you know, what is that step that you can make, that you can take to become that 5? This is not you becoming a 10. We're not jumping too forward, and it's got to be achievable. It's got to be something that is, you know, that you can see yourself doing. It's got to be really small and achievable, because once you do that, you get rewarded then with that nice dopamine, and then you want to do it again and again and again, and it becomes a habit. So it is literally just taking that one step, that one thing to add into your life that can make you feel a little bit better.
I love that. And we can all do that, I'm quite sure.
Oh, there's we can all, when we really think about it, we can find one thing. And even if it's for 5 minutes of your time, because again, we don't have much time as mums, but also we also say, I never have time, but you know, sometimes we can be scrolling, sometimes we can be not doing anything particular.
We can prioritize things differently as well.
And it's just prioritizing yourself, because when you are in a good place as a mum, as a woman, we have this ripple effect. You know, our children feel a bit better when we are centered and we're feeling safe with our thoughts and our inner and our body. We are them, our children and people around us will mirror that.
Yeah. And that's such a key thing as well, isn't it? We're continually setting examples. Kids as sponges just pick up the way we are. So if in the best kind of calmest, healthiest way we can, then
absolutely. And I hear clients like say, oh, when I'm not feeling right or I'm really snappy, my children, they just know, they play up. And it's because they do know, they do pick up on our vibe, don't they? And it might not even be unpleasant words that we're saying, but just if we're not feeling great and we're not in the right headspace, children just know it. So it might seem selfish to take care of yourself, but it really, really isn't, because taking care of you really takes care of everybody else that's around you.
So vital. It really is true for mums especially, but for anyone, like you say, it radiates out to everyone around you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
2 little things before we wrap up, Helen. One, I'm really curious if you've got any, over the kind of last 3 years that you've been working in this way, if you've got any really lovely examples of transformations, without giving anything away that's too confidential, but if you've got like you mentioned, oh, someone, you know, got that job, or, you know, I bet you've seen some really lovely kind of transformations with people that you work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had a lady that was, you know, in a job that was just sort of plodding on. It was okay, and it was kind of in the middle of the pandemic, and she suddenly realized that, I don't know if I want to be doing this anymore. It suddenly made me realize that actually trying to have a more of a home life type of balance was what was needed, and it was a pandemic that kind of showed that to her. And she was like, but I feel really stuck, I feel scared, I've been in the job for a really long time. She had family around her that was, you know, perhaps her mum that was a bit like, well, you've been in that job for a long time, don't leave, why do you want to leave, all of those things. And she just felt so stuck with her thoughts, just going over the same thing. And she just said, I can't get out of this loop, you know, I want to leave, can't leave, all of these things. So that was the problem, but we didn't really focus on the problem. We kind of focused on what she felt like as a person, and we built her confidence up. And it was amazing. I worked with her for about 8 weeks, and we got to like the 8th session, and she said, I've got something to tell you. And I was like, oh, okay, what is it? And she said, she's in her 30s, and she's always wanted to do, she did dance at uni when she was really young, like, you know, 18, and then she had kids and life, and she's loved dancing, loved performing. And she said, I've applied to go to university, I'm going to be a dance teacher, I'm going to do dancing again, which was totally opposite of her job that she was doing. It was totally opposite. And like she said, there was no way when I first came to you would I have seen myself applying for uni. Like, I just wouldn't do it. And she was like, I just can't believe I'm even doing this. But to see her body language and how she talked to herself, because she was like, Oh, well, I love dance. When I really unpicked it and what she loves doing, she loves drama, she loves dance. Oh, but I've had children. My body shape isn't the same as it was when I did it back when I was like 19. You know, it's going to be full of really young women, and I'm going to feel really the odd one out. And all of these what if, what if, what if, what if. And then one day she just did it. She just applied, and she had an interview over Zoom. She said it went really well. She got in and she just felt amazing. And she said, and all the thoughts of how am I going to juggle the childcare? How am I going to get to the uni? What if there's lots of women younger than me? She said it all just went.
Yeah.
Once she took that leap,
Out, right.
She just totally sorted herself out with her confidence. And yeah, so she was great. And I saw another mum as well, actually, young mum who'd been a single mum, who was, you know, really, really clever. And she, similar thing, kind of like, oh, I've got a baby and everyone's going to judge me, but I really want to do this, I really want to do that. And we did loads of sessions over Zoom, and she went to Oxford University, and she's thriving now. And she's totally like, I can't believe I didn't even, like, how did I not even believe in myself to do it? You know, so yeah, so she's studying medicine.
So cool.
So like, people are doing really, really cool things, but also you just see women who just feel more themselves. You know, you don't have to have these massive transformations. It can be the smallest things, dressing a little bit differently, you know, the relationship with their partner, they're a lot more closer now because communication had broken down. You know, you get people doing, you know, so many different things. Again, I had another woman that, you know, had a huge fear of driving. She hadn't got in a car for 10 years to drive. She had a panic attack in a car, you know, 10 years previous, and she's got children, and she was like, I need to get them to clubs and all of these things, and I'm having to get other people to do it. And she's like, I've just got to a point where I'm just really fed up now because it's really impacting my life. She goes, but I don't think I can do it. I don't, you know, I've heard about you, I'm going to give it a go. I worked with her for about 6 weeks. She was driving and towing a horse behind her. Like, I was like, oh my God. Yeah, so she's driving her daughter around, who, you know, has got a horse. She's driving her to shows. She's pulling a trailer with a horse in the back. I mean, to go from not being able to drive for 10 years to be driving and towing a horse box for her, and to see her daughter, you know, and taking her, and it was just massive. It was massive. And she said, like, to see her teenage daughter, see her mum overcome that fear. Her daughter was so proud of her, and that meant a lot to her. And so, yeah, you know, so many different transformations. I mean, gosh, I've just got so many trying to think of them.
It's very nice. But that will have a ripple effect on everything. Like, if you're in that new mindset, you're going to be approaching everything differently, right? So
absolutely, yeah. And body confidence as well is a lot that I see. You know, and seeing people being able to look in the mirror and without criticizing themselves is massive. To be able to wear clothes that they want to wear, that they feel great in, is amazing. Seeing them getting in a swimming costume and playing with their children on the beach, which they wouldn't have done, you know, they wouldn't have even contemplated it. You know, those are the really things that you just think, wow, these, you don't have to be doing anything amazing like going to university and doing all these courses, which is great, but to be able to see her face saying that she wore a swimming costume and ran into the sea with her children, it was like, that is amazing. From someone that just hid herself for so long because she couldn't stand the sight of her body. Like, those are just like amazing when you see things like that.
Like, super emotional, isn't it?
Yeah.
Any minute, but I'm like, it's amazing, isn't it? Really, those the impact that those things will have on these women.
Yeah.
Incredible. I love it. Thanks for sharing those. I love that. To wrap up, Helen, what are some kind of takeaways that people can take away from this? Are there any kind of little micro elements or tools from the kind of either the kind of solution focused element or the hypnotherapy element, or the you know, little tools and tricks that people can use practically on their own, maybe if they want to build up to something like this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, if you're feeling stuck and you're kind of just feeling like you're just, you know, in that mundane treadmill of just being a mum and doing all of those things, writing down what your best hopes would be. So your best hopes, writing down what you would like to feel like instead is really powerful, because we're changing the narrative again. So it's a really good tool to be able to just sit down. Instead of saying, I don't want to feel anxious, I don't want to feel stressed, write down, I want to feel. I'd like to feel more freer. I'd like to feel more calmer. And when you start to looking at those, and then looking at, okay, what does calmer look like? What's calmer for you? So we're breaking it down again. So that's a really good kind of journaling prompt to do is, what are my best hopes? What would I like to feel like, instead of what I want to feel like, what I'm feeling like? Because it's a really good way to visualize where you want to go. Because, you know, if you're kind of on a path and you're stuck, if you've got no direction, if you've got no kind of where you want to get to, we just kind of bumble through. Whether it is, I'd like to start my own business, I'd like to, I don't know, whatever it is, I'd like to just feel that I'm more in control of my thoughts, whatever those are, I want you to really write them down and what they look like. You know, what is that goal that you want to get to? Because once we've got somewhere to work to, we can then work backwards and find those little micro steps that can get you there. But if we don't have a vision or a direction, we can feel quite lost. So for people who are feeling stuck and a bit lost, it's a really good one to be, where do I want to get to? What do I want to feel like, instead of what I feel right now? Gratitude is a really good tool as a repetition thing to do, even if it's one thing every day. And even if you get to like day 4 and think, oh, nothing's happening here, it's like, keep going. Like, honestly, really keep going.
I think a gratitude attitude has, not to be dramatic, completely changed my life. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it all the time. It's so simple and so powerful.
Yeah,
to supplement that advice, what I'd suggest is doing it with the kids as well, for no other reason that it's hilarious. I do it with my daughter, who's almost 4. Not every morning, because we don't always remember, but most mornings. What are you grateful for this morning, Lyra? And she'll normally say like like whatever snack she's eating, or like if she's watching watching Blippi. So it's so sweet. It's so sweet. So it's quite fun.
It is. And challenging those thoughts. If you get those negative thoughts where they say, I can't do this, I'm not very good at, right, really challenge it. You know, what's the evidence? What's the evidence to say you can't do that, or that you can't cope with that? There's no physical evidence. You know, we've got to challenge these thoughts. And I think sometimes we can often say, oh, just try not to think negatively, or try not to think about those. But actually, we're learning more and more to actually let those thoughts come. You can label them if you want to. Just let them come and challenge them. And see them for what they are, rather than trying to get rid of it. Because when we try and get rid of negative thoughts, we're batting them away for a little bit, but they will come back. And they will like ebb and flow like a wave. And it, you know, a negative thought, it can rise and it can be really horrible, but it will subside. So I will always say that's a really nice trick, is to kind of just really challenge that thought. Don't try and push it away. Let it come and actually see what evidence there really is there of you. And another tool, just to add in, is the body scan. And you can do that by yourself. You can just sit and relax and just imagine relaxing, even just softening your face for 5 minutes, or even just a couple of minutes, where you can just sit, relaxing your cheeks and clenching your teeth, relaxing your jaw, and allow that to go right the way down your body, and thinking about your neck, thinking about your shoulders, your arms, and physically feel yourself sinking back down. And it can just take a couple of minutes, but it's really good when you're feeling really anxious and your body feels really tense. Just kind of like stop whatever it is you're doing. And you can even do it even with the children around, just sitting and just allowing those teeth to unclench and the jaw to relax and the shoulders to come down. And that's a really good physical thing to get you into feeling more and more relaxed in your body.
So true. We so rarely do it, but if ever someone says the prompt, if ever, you know, sometimes people put it on social media or whatever, if someone ever says just like relax your shoulders, every single time you go, like you don't realize, do you? I'm just wondering whether I might put a little reminder on my phone like a couple of times a day.
Absolutely. I'm always doing checking, because for me it's my jaw, like clenching my teeth. I know if I'm stressed because I've clenched my teeth, and every now and again I have to say to myself, just open your mouth, like relax your jaw.
Yeah.
Then you suddenly go, oh my God, yeah, I've been really clenching my teeth.
Yeah.
But yeah, that reminder, that repetition again, isn't it? Of just keep reminding yourself to do it. But just doing your own little body scan is really, really powerful for physically letting go of that tension and stress that's in your body.
Awesome. Oh, some super duper good tips there. I love that. Thank you so much.
That's
And
all
finally,
right.
if people do want to take it that step further and they're really intrigued about this, and they want to come and find you, where can they come and find you and get in touch, find out more?
Yeah, so I guess I'm mainly on Instagram and on Facebook. They're the best places. And I have got a website, but I'm having it redone at the moment. So I'm going to having a new website. But Instagram is at Sonara Sister Hypnotherapy. Same on Facebook, Sonara Sister Hypnotherapy. So yeah, mainly on social media, and people can pop me a message. And yeah, book in for an initial consultation if they want to, where you can really talk over everything first before you go into the hypnosis, so that you've got a really good clear picture of what it is and how it can help. So yeah, getting that initial consultation in is really, really good, and it helps you understand hypnosis, and then it gives me a good idea of what's going on.
Perfect. That sounds awesome. Helen, thank you so much. It's been a joy.
That's
It's been
okay.
so
Yeah,
fascinating. There was
really enjoyed it. Thank you
really
so much
cool.
for having me.
Anytime, anytime. No, do keep in touch. It's been awesome.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, I look forward to seeing what's next for you.
Yes.
Thanks so much. Speak to you soon.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye.